Hello and welcome to Money for Economics episode 19. In this episode, we'll talk about culture. If you want to get in touch, my email is in the top left corner of the screen. Let's talk a little bit about cultural protection. There's this United Nations organization called UNESCO, and you can sovereign states can become member states in the UNESCO, and what happens is that certain entities such as architecture, antiques, they become protected. One possible product of that is that certain buildings are prohibited from being destroyed. There may also be ecological restrictions around natural wonders like waterfalls, things like that. More recently, some foods have been branded as a culturally protected entity, and what that does is basically it only allows, so let's say an example of feta cheese, which comes from a region of Greece, so only that region in Greece is allowed to call their feta cheese feta, basically, and then all other countries in the world who produce something extremely similar to feta can't actually put feta in their brand. Now, I personally like the idea of protecting foods and sort of respecting the national cuisine, but I think this branding is a bit too far. So obviously historical reenactments. Historical reenactments, they can be sort of melee weapons or medieval, where you have swords, spears, arrows, things like that. Also historical reenactments, they can go into the age maybe of 200 years ago, where there was muskets, musket weapons, and then all the way to the modern age with automatic sort of firearms and things like that. Um, there should be people should be allowed to create their own reenactment clubs. One big aspect in these reenactment clubs is that there'll be a centralized production of clothing and items. The members of these societies they'll be able to get clothing from the production lines in the country. So one big thing with reenactments are is that some people would really like to do them, but they simply don't have those 1,000 or 2,000 euros to buy a complete sort of uniform from, let's say, World War II or something. Um, there's certain firearms. So obviously, reenactors from World War I, World War II, things like that. Maybe even the days of the muskets. They need firearms to reenact when they're reenacting battles. I think those firearms should get a supply of blank firing bullets. But the firearms will have to be regulated as well. Reenactment clubs, they also need vehicles. They might use horses, other animals, so that should be catered as well. Um, there's these traditional sports events, not necessarily just sports, but there's these events like that's one event, I think it's in Spain, where people throw tomatoes. Those should also be culturally protected and held every year, or yeah. So we get to this idea of national history. One part of the national history is to safeguard antique items, to protect books because books can be lost or forgotten over time. And actually, we do suffer. The people suffer from that a lot today. Like a lot of books between 0 AD 1000 AD are probably lost and forgotten, and no one knows what was in them. So we need to really protect what we have as much as possible. Um, National culture, so it doesn't go without food. Food is very important. I was talking about food agriculture, like these regions, they've been producing, I don't know, a very specific type of apple, for example, for hundreds of years now. It would be great if we could actually safeguard the ability of that region to produce those apples, but when you need to cater to millions of people and your region's very small, we have to look at how we're going to produce all of that to basically to cater to everyone. We'll also look at this question of revisionism of history and whether there should be a establishment for the research of national culture, history, linguistics, and like that. Should the government make an effort to verify history to help with distributing information, historical information to the people, etc. Clothing industry, obviously, cotton plants, sheep, wool from sheep. They're all connected to the agriculture industry. Obviously, we want foreign imported brands, but in terms of domestic clothing industry, the first step I think is to have a wide library range of textiles that can be produced in factories, and obviously users can make their own textile designs. These textiles would be transferred to clothing shops run by designers who can make their own societies. And one part of expanding that sector is to have fashion courses for secondary school students. So morality and culture. So there's this clash between a state defining culture in a given time versus all the culture that has been accumulated on that land for hundreds of years, right? So there's that. State defined culture, it can be used to inspire nationalism, but obviously a bad side to nationalism is nationalist hatred of opposing groups. Morality and culture, I think there can be said to be hardworking peoples like Germans and lazy peoples like Mediterranean peoples. Um, that's not so black and white. It's not. We shouldn't be pursuing one because it's better. But we can also think about that. So comments. I think one big comment is that should the state create a set of morals for its citizens, that doesn't mean it's creating a religion in a way. It you can say that, but particularly what morals should it do? Should it help to um, people not to be very judgmental, kids to not children to not really not really be bullies, things like that. Um, Pluralism and homogenous culture. Pluralism is great if you can defend all of that history and religion and everything. Homogenous culture, you can say that it might be good to create nationalism and inspire people. But I would side with pluralism. Right. Thank you for watching.